Sanaa was returning home from college like any other day, her books clutched tightly against her chest and thoughts lost in the noise of her daily routine. The sun had begun to set, casting long golden shadows across the narrow street filled with worn-out walls, tangled wires, and the distant honking of rickshaws. As she turned a corner near a familiar alley, something unusual caught her eye, a small boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, sitting alone on the dusty sidewalk. He was barefoot, his feet caked with mud. His clothes hung loosely off his thin frame, torn and stained from days of wear. What truly broke her heart was the sight of him clutching a dirty piece of bread, half-eaten, likely found from a trash pile nearby. He was eating it slowly, savoring each bite like it was a feast, his tiny fingers trembling with hunger. His big eyes, filled with sadness far beyond his age, met hers for a moment. That one glance held stories of pain, loneliness, and a silent plea for help. Sanaa stopped in her tracks. Her heart clenched, her steps frozen. In a city where people walked past beggars every day without a second look, this moment felt different. This child didn't ask for anything. He didn't beg. He simply tried to survive, quietly, without disturbing the world that had forgotten him. And that silence screamed louder than any cry could. In that moment, something shifted inside her. Her eyes welled up, and without thinking, she slowly walked toward him, not out of pity, but from a deep, unexplainable connection. This wasn't just another poor child on the street. This was the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. Sanaa quietly opened the gate of her small home and guided the little boy inside, her hand resting gently on his thin shoulder. He hesitated at first, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings, unsure if he was allowed to be here. The house was modest. Chipped paint on the walls, a flickering ceiling fan above, and the comforting scent of homemade doll lingering in the air. But to him, it felt like stepping into a world he had long forgotten, a world of safety. She led him to the small kitchen, where the light from a single bulb cast a warm, golden hue over everything. The clatter of utensils and the gentle hiss of the stove filled the quiet. Sanaa carefully served him a plate of rice and lentils, placing it in front of him with a glass of water. Her hands moved gently, with care, not rushed or mechanical, but full of meaning. The boy stared at the food. He didn't touch it at first, as if he was still waiting for someone to snatch it away. His fingers hovered over the plate, then he slowly picked up a bite and placed it in his mouth. His eyes widened. It was warm. It was real. And it was given without condition. Sanaa sat across from him, watching him eat, a soft smile on her face. She didn't ask his name again. She didn't push for answers. She just let him be. In that quiet, humble kitchen, a bond began to form, not with words, but with food, warmth, and unspoken understanding. For the first time in what seemed like forever, he didn't feel like a burden. He felt seen. That night, he didn't just eat. He tasted kindness. And Sanaa? She discovered just how powerful one simple act of humanity could be. The narrow street was unusually quiet that afternoon, the kind of stillness that makes people peek through their curtains and pause mid-conversation. Sanaa was sweeping the front steps of her house when she heard the low hum of a powerful engine approaching, too smooth, too polished for her neighborhood. Her brow furrowed as a sleek black Mercedes rolled to a halt right outside her modest gate. The contrast was startling. The luxury car, gleaming under the sunlight, looked like it had no business being here, surrounded by cracked sidewalks, rusted gates, and weather-worn houses. The neighbors began to gather silently, eyes wide with curiosity. Children stood frozen mid-play. Even the air felt heavier, laced with suspense. The driver stepped out first, opening the rear door with precision. From it emerged a tall man in an immaculate suit, sharp, poised, with the kind of commanding presence that immediately drew attention. He adjusted his cuffs as two bodyguards followed closely behind, scanning the area with trained eyes. He wasn't just rich. He was important, and everyone felt it. Sana stood frozen, the broom still in her hand. Her heart pounded. Why was someone like him here? The man walked up to her gate, his eyes scanning her face. He didn't smile. He didn't offer greetings. Instead, he said in a voice that was calm yet deeply intense. "Are you Sana?" She nodded, unsure whether to feel fear or confusion. He paused for a moment, then said something that would turn her world upside down. "I've been looking for you. 4 weeks." The suspense hung thick in the air. Sana's grip on the broom tightened. She had no idea that this moment, this unexpected visit, was about to change her life in ways she could never imagine. Sana stood motionless at her doorstep, still trying to understand who this man was and why he had come. The rich stranger, with his sharp suit and piercing eyes, looked at her, not with arrogance, but with something deeper, something heavy. The bodyguard stayed back, giving space as he slowly stepped forward, his expression softening. Behind him, little Ali peeked out from inside the house, his small hand gripping the doorframe, unsure of what was happening but sensing it was about him. His eyes widened when he saw the man. The billionaire looked down at the boy, then back at Sana. His voice cracked slightly as he said, "That boy, he's my son." Sana's breath caught. Her eyes flew to Ali, then back to the man. "What?" He took a slow step closer and gently held her hands in his. The contrast was stark, his polished, manicured fingers wrapped around her slightly rough, working hands. But in that moment, class didn't matter. Money didn't matter. Only truth did. "My son was kidnapped 3 months ago," he said, his voice heavy with grief and relief. "We searched everywhere. No clues, no hope. But somehow, he found you. And you cared for him like he was your own." Tears welled up in Sana's eyes, her lips parting in disbelief. The truth hit her like sunlight breaking through clouds. She wasn't just feeding a hungry child, she was unknowingly protecting someone's whole world. Ali walked closer, holding her scarf tightly. The man looked at both of them, one with fatherly love, the other with silent gratitude. In that moment, the air shimmered with emotion. A single ray of sunlight fell between them, as if the universe itself was shining down to bless the truth that had finally come to light. 2 years had passed, but the memory of that day, the day the black Mercedes stopped at her gate, still lived in Sana's heart. Life had changed in ways she never imagined. The once quiet, ordinary girl who used to walk dusty streets with college books in hand was now standing tall at the front of a bright, inspiring hall. Sana stood confidently in a crisp professional outfit, her posture poised, her expression calm yet full of passion. Behind her hung a large world map, dotted with colorful pins marking every place their organization had reached. The banners of her NGO framed the stage, no child forgotten. No voice ignored. In front of her sat rows of children, once lost, abandoned, or forgotten, now smiling, healthy, and full of energy. Some clapped, others waved little flags, and a few just stared at her with wide, shining eyes, seeing in her a future they never thought they'd have. She began her speech not with grand words, but with a soft smile and a simple truth. "I was never trained for this. I didn't plan it. But when one child looked at me with empty eyes, I knew I had to do something." The lights were warm, casting a soft glow that made the entire room feel like home. Behind her, volunteers, teachers, and counselors.